This One's Wife. 10 Takeaways from Home Seminar Video. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. This One's Wife decided that she wanted to share her long-standing recent interest in baseball with all of you by sharing a clip of her celebrating a success on her Instagram. Yes, once again, the utilization of her social media for the purposes of the pursuit of the prime aims. Once again, her Instagram social demonstrating what a complete clown she is. As I predicted, Instagram will be the undoing of her. But there are a number of takeaways that come from this video that I'd like to share with you, of course, linked to her narcissism. Let's have a quick reminder, if you can bear it, of the actual footage. Here it is. Tedious, performative, fake. But there are a number of observations that come out of this. Number one, who's undertaking the filming? Is it the case that this is a standing camera in their home, that whoever happens to be sat in the rather boring-looking home cinema room is automatically recorded? You'd have thought that they might have put some pictures up in there, perhaps, of their favourite films, utilising film posters, make it a bit more of an interesting room, but no. That would require some form of imagination, and we know that this One's Wife doesn't have any, and Harry can't be arsed because he's too busy smoking a blunt on the compost heap outside. Anyway, putting that to one side, who was undertaking the filming? Is it a fixed camera that is within the Monty Shit Show mansion? Are there others? Or did this One's Wife place the camera in the corner and then decide, right, we're filming, everybody in position, away we go? Or is it a third party? Has Meredith Maines been recruited to do this? Maybe Marcus Anderson was lurking in the gloom, undertaking this role. Maybe it was something that Archie was given. Who was undertaking the filming? Either way, it's someone. If somebody has done it, it's at the direction of this One's Wife. And if not, we know that this One's Wife set it up herself because, of course, in her tiny deluded mind, everything that she does is of note and is of importance. Number two, and this segues from point one. This is just the tip of the iceberg. This One's Wife is an habitual filmer. Why? Well, she believes everything that goes on in her life is basically a film. She doesn't think that consciously. It's what's going on in the subconscious. But what this means is that lots of relatively mundane personal activities end up being recorded by her. Some of these find their way onto Instagram, invariably involving her looking ridiculous in the garden with vegetables that have clearly been bought from a shop, or talking to the camera excited about a Billie Eilish giveaway, demonstrating that there's a load of tosh and she looks like she's off her tits. However, in some instances, much of what will have been filmed sits there on that camera phone, on her iPhone, on her smartphone, and at a later juncture, when she needs to take action against someone, most likely Harry, her narcissism will essentially go, what have we got that we can use to assert control over him? I know. Let's go back into the film and find that footage of him running around half naked with his Willy Banjo being played as he's off his tits. Let's put up that footage of him shouting and screaming and throwing around the jars of Solent Red. It isn't the case that this One's Wife specifically films in the moment to think, I'll use this against him later. She just films because she thinks anything that's in and around her, and certainly involves her, is important enough to merit filming. That's her self-absorption. And then what her narcissism does at a later date, when it needs to take action, it thinks to itself, what have we got? What can we get from our box of tricks that we can now use? There are lots of things that the narcissism does by bringing things up that already pre-exist. And a common one is photographs and footage that were created at the time as a consequence of the self-absorption of the narcissist, but is later used by that narcissism, in effect, bringing up the past, to assert control against one or more appliances. The fact that we see that she records something which is fairly mundane, isn't it? 3 people watching the big screen, supposedly excited, or at least 2 of them, in relation to the baseball game result. The fact that she records this, we know, and because we've seen her propensity of recording other things, that she has a mass of material, and this is very much the tip of the iceberg. Number 3, Harry has no mates. There are just 3 people in this room. This one's wife, Harry, and I think Kelly Jaffin. If that's the case, where's her husband? Why isn't he watching with them? Hasn't Harry got any mates to watch the ball game with? Presumably not. And this shows another aspect of the ensnarement with the narcissist, whereby the narcissist looks to make them your world, because then you are easier to control, because there's less external influences. And by monopolizing your time, the narcissist finds it easier to control you and to draw that precious fuel from you. Consequence, Harry has no mates. Where are the bros to come round and watch the baseball with him? They're not. He has to sit with his wife and her non-intimate secondary source. Talking of which, point 4, this one's wife has managed just one further appliance beyond Harry to attend. So much for her being the doyenne of the social scene. The fact is, you'd have thought that the hostess with the mostess would say, do you know what I'll do? I will curate a baseball party. I'll do the food. I will rearrange some fruit on a platter. I will rearrange some items and call it a charcuterie board. And I will photograph it and film it. And then we'll all be seen at the baseball together with all of my friends. Instead, she doesn't bother with any of that, because we know that at best all she does is rearrange takeaway when it arrives. She doesn't actually do any cooking and baking herself. And furthermore, she doesn't really have many friends, as a consequence of the fact that she's thoroughly unlikable, and probably many of the people that she fraternizes with are users like her, and therefore only going to bother with her for the purposes of publicity, because she still does gain publicity. This is the best that she can muster. Her husband and one non-intimate secondary source in that rather dull-looking home cinema room. Point 5, this one's wife would rather sit with the appliance that is the non-intimate secondary source than her husband, which is demonstrative of a present silent treatment in effect, that she decides to go and sit next to the other person rather than Harry. Harry is probably grateful for the peace, to be honest, but the fact that she's not sat with him, that she emerges from off camera, suggesting that she was sat next to the non-intimate secondary source, demonstrates that Harry remains in the sustained evaluation, as is naturally the case for a person in his position. Number 6. I understand that this supposed celebration, which is entirely manufactured, is about the LA Dodgers winning the World Series. And yet, didn't they win it last year? Yes, they did. Well, where's the footage of this one's wife celebrating it from last year? There isn't any. Do you know why? Because she doesn't really have any interest at all in baseball. She just pretends that she does. Now, understand this. Her narcissism convinces her that she's really into it. And if you were to ask her, she'll probably say, oh, I've always been interested in baseball, which is a lie, but she believes that lie because her narcissism compels her to do so. There is no evidence of her having any particular interest in baseball. This is simply all about the latest fad, the latest interest of this particular narcissist, which she utilises by way of character trait acquisition in order to have that interest, to assert control over other people and draw fuel from them. The fact that we've not seen similar footage from last year is strong evidence indeed as to the paper-thin interest that this one's wife has in baseball. Number 7. Where are the kids? Are they not allowed to join in and watch? Do we not hear them cheering, even off camera, given the supposed privacy concerns? Okay, Lily might not be interested in baseball, but Archie might be. And wouldn't that be a lovely thing for him to do, to sit and watch it with Pa? But no, once again, they're in the attic, being fed crackers and water and told to keep the noise down because we don't want it interfering with the recording that's going on downstairs. Yet again, the absence of emotional empathy is evident, which either supports the proposition from those of you who believe the children don't exist, yet again, another instance where they're not seen, or if you accept that they do exist, it demonstrates the lack of emotional empathy of this one's wife because they're not allowed to join in what would otherwise be quite an exciting occasion, at least perhaps for Archie. Number 8. Harry looks perplexed. His brain, such as it is asking, why are we doing this? He's not leaping around. He's not excited. I doubt it's because he's particularly upset by the result. It's simply demonstrative that he isn't engaging in the manufactured behaviour of his wife. And the fact that he has a fairly nonplussed reaction only serves to provide us with a great contrast to demonstrate just how manufactured the response is of this one's wife. Point 9. I'm given to understand that the other lady is Kelly Zaffin, and apparently from a Crazy Day and Night's blind item, Kelly Zaffin was actually watching the game at home. How is this known? She posted about it on her own Instagram. How strange. And yet, here she is, celebrating with this one's wife, celebrating the outcome of the game. What is this? Is she able to split herself in two and appear in two places at once? Is this Schrödinger's Zaffin? Well, all it could be is that presumably this one's wife issued the call, get round to mine, I need to create some footage to place on the Instagram. And therefore, she was summoned by this one's wife post-game to engage in this manufactured behaviour. After all, you can see from the video that Zaffin sat there with her arms up in the air, waiting, poised. It's not a natural reaction. This is entirely staged. Pathetic. And finally, number 10. Where's the sound from the television? Has it been paused? Has the event actually finished? Is Harry actually just staring at the adverts with the sound off? Is the television even on? Well, given the fact that it suggested that Kelly Zaffin had to scoot round post-match, and that we know that this is a manufactured response, it could well be the case that they weren't actually watching anything, or that the whole event had already concluded, because we know this is manufactured. Another piece of pathetic footage from this performative narcissist, desperate to ensure that she is spoken about. I mean, she succeeds in that respect, because plenty of people will comment about what they see. But much of it will be challenge fuel because, once again, it's criticism of the ridiculousness of this woman. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for watching.